Wow. Okay, I just live streamed the reveal of the 2022 Civic prototype about 2 hours ago now. At its peak, I had about 500 of my subscribers in there in the live stream, so I got a lot of feedback pouring in. So right after the reveal hit, a bunch of videos started popping up on YouTube from Kelly Blue Book, Matt Moran Motoring. So I have the Kelly Blue Book version right here, which I will use as a reference for talking about the looks of the SI and what we know so far. This will be focused on speculation for the SI model, since that is what most of my subscribers are here for. First things first, we noticed that they show it in the orange or the molten lava pearl color. When I first saw this, I thought it was pretty weird. But the more that I'm watching this, it's been about 2 hours since the reveal, the more that I look at this car and the more that I see it from different angles, especially the rear, it's growing on me. It actually has a very similar design to the 10th gen front bumper, except we don't have any more fog light bezels. There are no fog lights on this model, which kind of makes me sad because I do like the look of, having the headlights and then the fog lights down there. That's a really aggressive look, I think. And then you see right here, the Honda emblem. Right above the Honda emblem, it has a really weird arc to it. And it just looks a little too smooth for what SI and Type R potential buyers are going to be looking for. So I don't like that curvature right there. And also, don't you think they would have learned from the first 3 years of the Type R? Because in 2020, they opened up the grille a little bit to allow more airflow in because it was having overheating problems. And now it looks like they've kind of gone in reverse and they've closed that opening a little bit. I'm not sure if that's going to make it to the production model or not. I'm sure once they do more track testing and stuff like that, they might realize that they need more airflow. But the headlights look pretty cool. Okay, so we're looking at it. We're looking at its right side right here. I like the wheels. One thing I'm noticing is this is not going to be a base model. This is not going to be like an LX or an EX probably. This looks like it could be the sport sedan mostly. So I am liking the wheels. They don't appear to be matte black, which I like because my 2020 SI, they come with matte black wheels. And I have had a couple people now ask me if they are plasti dipped. That's not okay. And then on the bottom here, I really like the look of this, okay? I think it flows pretty nicely in the back. I'm not 100% convinced on the flow from the very front of the car up until, the windshield. Not entirely convinced that it looks just like an Accord. However, what I do not like is that rear quarter panel seems to include the side skirt with it. I don't like that because that does not seem very customizable. With the 10th gens, the side skirts are actually their own individual piece, so you can take them off and put the HFP side skirts on and it looks really good. This one, all they're doing is limiting us as far as what we can do aftermarket. It just looks bloated in the back and it looks too thin in the front. They don't seem like they match up. I like those headlights, but they don't stand out. The 10th gen has its own personality. It's its own car. It's very distinguishable out of a crowd of cars. You can pick out a 10th gen, like, wow, that's an SI. It looks very, very aggressive in the front. It looks very aggressive in the back. Okay, so all we have right here is a picture of the interior, and it looks like an Accord. It has a very boring steering wheel, but again, I don't think this is, a good representation of what the SI and Type R interiors are gonna look like. This looks pretty basic in here. The passenger side of the car just looks, I don't think it could be any more boring. And then the AC controls, they just look really weird and out of place. I don't like those 3 dials. There's a huge amount of space in between those 3 dials. I'm just not feeling it. I'm really curious to hear what the dimensions are of this car because it looks like a big car. What I really like about the back is that they've taken away all of the vents, all of the fake vents, right? So we have a nice clean rear bumper. They're bringing it back to, like the 8th and 9th gens, except we have dual exhaust now, which I love. I love dual exhaust. And dual exhaust on a Civic, that's badass. What I'm not too crazy about is the integrated spoiler that they talked about right here. You can see that it has kind of like a duckbill feeling to it, and I'm not too crazy about that because that seems like it takes away, again, from the aftermarket. And the SI the SI needs a spoiler, and the Type R definitely does too, except I think the Type R is only going to be available in the hatchback, which, you know, we have not seen that yet, as aside from spy shots. But if the SI is in fact going to be a sedan, here's one thing. We still don't know if the SI is going to be a sedan or a hatchback, and it could be both. Okay, so I put the link to that KBB video in the description if you guys want to go watch that yourself, but we're gonna move on. What we're going to do, I found this wonderful Motor Trend article from back a few years ago before the 2017 Civic Si came out, and they basically, this is called Honda Civic Si Through the Years. I'm gonna start at the 1992 Honda Civic Si hatchback. So one thing I want to point out while I go through this list of Honda Civic Si's is that Honda has never reused the same exact engine from generation to generation. And at the end, I'm going to speculate what I think could be the powertrain for the 11th generation Honda Civic Si. So, 1992, we have a 125 horsepower, 1.6 liter D16 Z6. I'm not even sure how much torque, probably less than 100 foot-pounds. Okay, in 1999, the EM1. This is a great looking Civic. It's too bad we only had it for 2 years, but it has a B16A2, dual overhead cam, VTEC, 160 horsepower and 111 pound-feet of torque at 7,000 RPM. Wow. Quarter mile time of 15.7 seconds. God, that's slow. The good thing is it doesn't weigh very much. Okay, apparently we didn't have an SI for 2001. In 2002, we have the EP3 hatchback. Now this had the first K20 in a Civic, K20A3. The really crappy thing about this is that this is the same engine as the base model Acura RSX. That kind of sucks. 160 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go to 2006. This is the 8th gen. This might be the best all-around NA Civic that we've had. So for 2006, they really bumped it up by almost 40 horsepower. It has the K20 Z3, making 197 horsepower and 139 pound-feet of torque, so not a lot of torque. Okay, so then 2012, I have a 9th gen for those who are new to my channel. We have the K24 Z7, making in 2012 and 13, making 201 horsepower and 170 pound-feet of torque. And in 2014, it got a slight power bump due to a revised exhaust system, and it went up to 205 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. Up to that point, they've all been naturally aspirated engines, but from generation to the next, they've been very different engines. So now we're at the 2017 SI. This is when Honda took a big turn, and they went smaller displacement, almost by a liter, down to 1.5 liters, with a turbocharger, and this car is making 205 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque, which is actually underrated. These cars definitely make more than 192 pound-feet of torque from the factory. These 1.5s are monsters, and they're very easy to make power out of because all you need with a turbocharged car is you get a tuner and intercooler, and you're making a lot more power. So this is what I think could happen for the 2022 Civic Si. I definitely see Honda continuing to use the 1.5 liter engine, the turbocharged engine. However, I think they are going to make a lot of improvements to it. I think we might see the return of iVTEC in the SI model. Now, I think it'll only be on the exhaust side. This is my speculation. I think we could see it on the exhaust side like the current Type R and the K24 Z7 from the 9th Gen SI. The 9th Gen SI only had VTEC on the exhaust side. I really think Honda could bring this back because right when the 2017 Civic Si came out, that was a huge complaint, and it still is today. It just doesn't feel quite like an SI. You know, the 10th Gen SI is really its own thing. There's nothing else like it. And all of its older siblings are like, what's up with our younger brother or younger sister? You know, you talk about the 10th Gen. It's such a different car, such a different powertrain, but in a good way. They have proven to be pretty reliable, and they make great power gains with very few modifications. My full bolt-on 10th Gen is probably sitting close to 250 horsepower to the wheels, which is great out of a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. So now we get into how much horsepower do we think we're gonna have if they add the VTEC to the exhaust side. I think if they beef up the internals, do a lot of camshaft work, maybe increase the red line a little bit, maybe to 6,800, maybe 7,000 if we get VTEC on the exhaust side, I think we could probably see a 220 horsepower SI from the factory. And the reason I don't estimate any more than that is because they still need to make this reliable. When the 10th gen first came out, one of the executives at Honda said they kept the power down for long-term reliability. So they knew, you know, Honda knows their engines, they know what they're putting out there. They knew when they put out the 10th gen SI that it was very well capable of making more power than 205 to the crank. But they tuned it at that level on purpose for very long-term reliability because that's what they're known for. So looking forward about, you know, 6 to 8 months from now when this is supposed to be coming out, what is Honda going to be competing against for the SI? They're going to be competing against the Hyundai Elantra GT, which I think right now is right around 200 horsepower, 201, something like that. And then obviously they have the Volkswagen Jetta GLI. They have the Golf GTI, which, I mean, that's the 8th gen. The Mark 8 GTI, that's gonna have, you know, close to 250 horsepower. So that's already taking off. That's already really, you know, increasing the gap from the current gen SI. Honda's always gonna make sure that the SI is a lot less money than the GTI. So it's not gonna have as much power as the GTI. You know, things just have to make sense, right? I think we could probably, if they give us VTEC, I think we could probably see a 220 horsepower 11th gen SI. So that's what I'm hoping for. I think that would probably be enough. If they give us VTEC, I think that would be enough to get 10th gen owners to go trade in for the 11th gen. And it has to look more aggressive than the prototype they just showed us. So that's all I have for this video. Please comment down below with your feedback. I do plan on making a video with everyone's feedback from the Honda community. I don't want to do that right this second because everyone's first impressions are pretty much all over the place, and I want to give people a chance to actually sit on it and look at these images, and maybe within the next couple days Honda releases some news about it and we get to hear some more things, and I'm just gonna go with the flow. But for now, that's my take, and let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.